Hari. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskrityam Narom Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir-bhavati nahishtuki. Idam bhagavatam namam. Puranam brahma samhitam. Uttama shloki charitam. Chakara bhagavan rishi. Nishrishreyasya lokasya. Dhanyam swastyayanam maha. So, we're reading from the 20th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, verse number 1. Narada Vacha Sainika Bhayanam no ye Barisman Dishtakarinah Prachvara Kala Kanyabhyam Vicherur Havanim Imam. Narada Vacha Sainika Bhayanam no ye Barhishman Dishtakarinah Prachvara Kala Kanyabhyam Vicherur Havanim Imam. Narada Vacha Sainika Bhayanam no ye Barhishman Dishtakarinah Prachvara Kala Kanyabhyam Vicherur Havanim Imam.
Narada Uvacha Sainika Bhayanam no ye Barhishman Dishtakarinah Prachvara Kala Kanyabhyam Vicherur Havanim Imam. Narada Uvacha Sainika Bhayanam no ye Barhishman Dishtakarinah Prachvara Kala Kanyabhyam Vicherur Havanim Imam.
Narada Uvacha Sainika Bhayanam no ye Barhishman Dishtakarinah Prachvara Kala Kanyabhyam Vicherur Havanim Imam.
Ladies.
Narada Vacha Sainika Bhayanam no ye Barhishman Dishtakarinah Prachvara Kala Kanyabhyam Vicherur Havanim Imam. Narada Vacha Sainika Bhayanam no ye Barhishman Dishtakarinah Prachvara Kala Kanyabhyam Vicherur Havanim Imam. Word-to-word translation. Narada Vacha. The great sage Narada continued to speak. Sainikaha. The soldiers. Bhayanamnaha. Of Bhaya. Fear. Ye. All of them. Who? Barhishman, O king, Prasin Barhisat.
Dishtakarinaha,
Ishtakarinaha,
the order carriers of death.
the order carriers of death.
Prajwara,
Vajrava,
with Prajwara. Kalakanyabhyam,
Kalakanyam,
and with Kalakanya.
Kalakanya,
Vicheruhu,
Shehu,
traveled.
Travel,
Avanim,
Avanim,
on earth.
on earth.
Imam,
Imam,
this.
this.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The great sage Narada continued, My dear king, Prachina Barhisa. Afterward, the king of Yavanas, whose name is fear itself, as well as Prajwara and Kalakanya and his soldiers, began to travel all over the world. Translation, please repeat responsibly. The great sage Narada continued,
The great sage Narada continued,
My dear king Prachina Barhisa.
My dear king Prachina Barhisat.
Afterward,
Afterward,
the king of the Yavanas,
king of the Yavanas,
whose name is fear itself,
whose name is fear itself,
as well as
as well as
Prajwara,
Vajrava,
Kalakanya,
Kalakanya,
and his soldiers,
and his soldiers
began to travel
began to travel
all over the world.
all over the world.
Purport by His Divine Grace. The period of life just prior to death is certainly very dangerous because usually at this time people are attacked by the weakness of old age. As well as many kinds of disease. The diseases that attack the body are compared here to soldiers. The soldiers are not ordinary soldiers, for they are guided by the king of the Yavanas, who acts as their commander-in-chief. The word Dishtakarinaha indicates that he is their commander. When a man is young, he does not care for old age, but enjoys sex to the best of his satisfaction, not knowing that at the end of life, his sexual indulgence will bring him various diseases, which so much disturb the body that one will pray for immediate death. The more one enjoys sex during youth, the more he suffers in old age. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Vedanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurau Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagnarunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lita Shri Vishakham Shritamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindai Tulasi Divya Priyaya Keshavasya Vishnu Bhakti Prati Devi Satyavate Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripasindhubhye Vachipaditanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasani Shri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the purport here, and of course the whole the chapters that are going on here is all about how Narad Muni is trying to extricate Maharaj Prachina Varisat, or the descendant of Maharaj Prithu, from his addiction to performing fruitive activities. And this is after Maharaj Prachina Varisat has sent his sons to actually be trained up to be kings. And one of the most important things that is to be done is that before one becomes a king or takes up any position, he has to be trained. So it's not that it's left for them to choose after a later time what they should do. But today's purport is specifically for the purpose of reminding us, and actually also Prachina Varisat, about old age and how old age is so dangerous. And if one is not preparing himself for old age, then it becomes even more miserable. In the Bhagavad Gita 3.41, is Bhagavad Gita around somewhere? And the purport of that is in English.
Hey, German?
Thanks. 3.41. Srila Prabhupada makes a very, very interesting purport there. Here, Arjuna asks Krishna, Atho kena prayukto yam papam charati purusha anichadeva varshniya baladeva niyojitaha. Why is it that we perform sinful activities even though we don't want to do that? And Krishna, of course, says, Kama esha, Krodha esha, Rajaguna samudbhava, Mahasanna mahapapa, Vidhyena ihevairinam. But then he actually goes on to explain what is it that actually causes this, our entanglement with this material world. Actually, the spirit soul is pure. Why does it have to get entangled with this material world? And how does he actually perform sinful activities, even though he knows he doesn't want to do that? So, in that sequence there, he, of course, Krishna talks about how lust covers us at different levels in different ways, and where they're situated in the mind, in the senses, etc. And in verse number 41, very interestingly, Tasmat tvam indriyani ado niyamya bharatarshava papmanam prajahinam jnana vijnana nashanam. So this is a very interesting thing. He says, Tasmat tvam indriyani ado. Therefore, Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, Tasmat tvam indriyani ado, right from the beginning. Tasmat tvam indriyani ado, right from the beginning, curb this great symbol of sin. Tasmat tvam indriyani ado, niyamya bharatarshava, niyamya, by regulation. Niyamya bharatarshava, papmanam prajahinam, jnana vijnana nashanam. It destroys knowledge and wisdom. Prabhupada says, knowledge and self-realization. So, by regulating the senses and slay the destroyer of knowledge and self-realization, right from the beginning. And I won't go through the whole purport, but the Lord, I just read here and there a little bit. Please read it on your own. It's a very wonderful purport. It's a purport to be meditated upon. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specific knowledge of the self. So this is the training this is the culture that Prabhupada actually wanted us to come. This is the training that he wanted all of us to actually get down to. In fact, does anyone know where does Prabhupada, in the books, where does he actually mention that schools and colleges today are slaughterhouses?
It's Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes.
The description of Prahlad Maharaj teaching his schoolmates.
Yes and no. Where does he mention it directly? First canto, first chapter, verse number 22. It's not very far. And right in the beginning he says that because the schools and colleges are basically encouraging people for sense gratification, it is a slaughterhouse. And for a sadhu or for a saintly person, I don't think he can use any harsher words than the word slaughterhouse. I mean, you know, we are third-class people. We will use all kinds of dirty words. But if he's a, you know, saintly person, he's using the word, the worst word that you can ever have. Slaughterhouse. Okay. And why is he calling it a slaughterhouse? It's here. He says, because it destroys knowledge and self-realization and knowledge of the self. So, how does it actually destroy it? Let's talk. I just read the second paragraph of this purport. And this is why we will have to understand that we need a different education system. We need a different system of educating young people, not the way it is going on today. And unless we struggle to do that, we're not actually bringing forth what Srila Prabhupada wants us to do. Okay, please listen to this purport very carefully. And of course, we will go back to the purport again, the Bhagavatam purport, but this is the second paragraph. Lust is only the perverted reflection of love of Godhead. Lust is only the perverted reflection of love of Godhead, which is natural for every living entity. This, of course, we've Nitya Siddha Sadhya ko gunoy Shravanadi Sunto Chitte Karo Krishna Prema. So, love of God is natural for all living entities, but lust is just the reflection, perverted reflection of that. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, please mark his words, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. So right in the beginning, one has to be given knowledge, and I wouldn't say it's just this academic knowledge, but it has to be an environment where one is actually going to understand love of God. Is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning to see everything in connection with the Supreme. That natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. That love of God from the very beginning cannot deteriorate. In fact, you will see small children love everything. They would see a small piglet, they want to catch it and play with it. They see a small puppy, they want to play with it. They want to play with everything. They don't distinguish this is a good person, big person, this is this, this is that. They have no distinction. They just, want to approach anything. But what we do is something else. So, cannot deteriorate into lust. Mind you, now listen to his words. When love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. And this is what we are. Our situation is this. When when love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. But Srila Prabhupada says, no, don't get so disheartened. So nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So this is the Pancharatrik Vidhi. When you can't enter the system through the front door, you have to enter through the back door. So at the later age, when we realize that, okay, we've got to do something about our lives, at some point of time, some incidents, and then you say, okay, but it's a nonetheless stage, it's nonetheless. If it's still but it is very difficult at this stage to bring it back. So, so from any stage of life or any time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness. So one has to begin regulating them. Devotional service to the Lord and turn lust into love, the highest perfectional stage of human life. So this is where the whole point begins. So this is the purport here, is again stressing us or trying to bring us to this point to realize that old age is very difficult. And the more one is indulged in sense gratification in the younger age, it becomes more and more difficult to actually focus on the self and self-realization as one becomes old. Idam shariram parinama pesharam patanti avashyam satasandhi jarjaram kim aushadam prishashi mudha durmate niramayam krishna rasayana piba. So in Mukundamala Stotra, it's very famous saying, Idam shariram, this body, parinama pesharam. What is this final result of this body? Parinama pesharam. It has to be, it's going to be thrown away. We can't do anything with this body. Parinama pesharam. Patanti avashyam. It has to be destroyed. Patanti avashyam. Satasandhi jarjaram. And how will it start? Satasandhi jarjaram. As it's happening with, as we grow older. Every sandhi, every joint of the body starts stiffening. What do you call them? Frozen shoulders, frozen elbows, or what do you call it? Tense elbows, frozen shoulders, back problems, knee problems. They all will start one after the other. Satasandhi jarjaram. Kim aushadam. King Kulashekara asked the question, Kim aushadam, what is the medicine for it? Is there any medicine for old age? I remember years and years ago, I was once traveling in a bus from a place called Mangalore to Mumbai in those days, and there were only buses in those days, and it was a 24-hour bus ride, and I was in a bus in which most of the people in the bus were actually old people, and there was one particular man. He had a problem of diuretic. I mean, he was not able to control his urine, so he'd actually again and again go and try to stop the bus to pass urine. And poor person, I mean, he practically was wet. I mean, his trousers were almost wet all the time. And the what do you call it? The helper who actually helps the driver, who goes along with him. He was again and again being disturbed. Stop the car, and and that was the time when actually it's a rush season. It's a season when people actually they need to go to Bombay early and come back early to get as many trips as possible. So they were actually disturbed that this fellow was stopping the bus again and again. So he was actually in one way he was cursing under his breath. He was saying that ye Buddha, this old guy. So, but everywhere actually the whole bus except me, I think the whole bus was filled with people who were old. So this Buddha, this old guy. So he was cursing his Buddha. So the person sitting right next to the door actually overheard him cursing this fellow saying that Buddha. So when he was saying that, so the person got off. Then this person who was sitting in the front seat, he actually said something which I always remember. He said, "Hum aaj ke buddhe hain, tum kal ke buddhe ho." That we are old today, you are tomorrow's old. So you're tomorrow's old. So don't think it's not going to happen. Celestial Prophet says, don't think it's not going to happen to you. But the whole question is, how do we prepare ourselves for old age? And preparing for old age is that's why actually the Vedic system is very sequential. There's a particular time when everything else is done. So the first 5 years, Lalanat Panchavarshani, first 5 years, a child is supposed to be pampered. Lalanat Panchavarshani. Tade Dashavarshani. So the next 10 years, they have to be disciplined. Sodasha Varsha Prapte Putram Mitram Eva Ancharet. As soon as one reaches 16th year, the child is supposed to be, you cannot correct him again after that. You have to treat him as your friend. There are a lot of things in this because around the age of 15, when everything else happens normally, the child normally hits puberty. The boy's voice will crack. So that is the time when he's maturing. So at that age, he doesn't want to be corrected or publicly rebuked, or etc. So he's more conscious of his position, etc. But before that, he can be corrected, and that is the time he should be corrected. And the whole purpose of this whole system of education is to actually prepare him for his adulthood, and eventually for his old age. So the main time for his education is that period. And this is something that the modern education system does not take into account, that there is a sequence of when things happen. There's a psychology of change when the person becomes mature, when he hits puberty. So things change at that time. So those facts are actually very scientifically understood in the Vedic system. By the age of around 10 or 12, their motor skills will start developing. Their abilities to actually do things around and try to do things, get their strength out, show off their strength. In fact, they'd love to show it in front of especially their mother. They lift things and do show, and so the mother also encourages them. Yes, can you lift this? Put this up there. So around 10 to 12, that motor skills start, and then they show their propensities of their actual abilities to what they can do, what they cannot do. So by the age of 15, the family, the teachers, etc., should all know what is his ability, what are his talents, and then guide him accordingly. There is an old saying, this is not in any particular scripture as such, but there's an old saying amongst the old people that if a boy or a girl does not work hard between the age of 14 and 20, they'll never work hard in the rest of their lives. So that's the time when they should actually work hard and develop all their skills, basic skills. After 20, it becomes difficult for them to actually learn new skills, especially motor skills. So anyway, this is what the system is. This is a very sequential. And then comes a time when they will actually have to retire. And not retire till one becomes invalid. Retire well before, so that one can prepare himself to go through old age and be independent as they become old. So, Panchashodam Vanam Project. So this system is a very scientific system, understanding every aspect of life, whereas the modern system does not understand any of these. They retire a person at 60 and just give him no service at all. Just sit down at home, take your retirement money and just dump yourself somewhere. And we only celebrate the youth. But that's not what the Vedic system is. The Vedic system is to prepare us for what things that will naturally come to us. To prepare the man as he's young, the young boy, to prepare for natural things that will come to him. Things that naturally will come to him is fatherhood, being a husband, being a person who's going to actually be responsible for the family's religious practices, food, security. Those are the kind of things that naturally come to them, whether you like it or not. And similarly for women, things that will naturally come to them. A lady in a house is actually the person from whom the children learn so many things. The first thing that the ladies in the family teach the children, the whole family, basically the dress sense comes from the lady in the house. The sense of eating, when to eat, habits of eating, all of them actually come. In fact, you will see that children who grow up eating what the parents or what the mothers have fed them, that is what they prefer for the rest of their lives. For example, we've been fed rice, so we always look for rice. If you've been fed a particular kind of food by your mother, that's what you prefer for the rest of your life. And that is how the families are actually made. So you prefer that. You would prefer to do that. Men also learn, children mainly learn conversation from their mother. They learn, a dress sense, how to dress up, how to keep the house from their mother. So there's so many things they actually learn from. They learn how to celebrate festivals from their mother. So there are so many issues that naturally come to a man or a woman. But the present day education, does it help them to actually prepare for those natural roles that they come to them? No. It doesn't prepare them for those natural roles. In fact, it is more like a factory education, where we are actually prepared for roles to be a part of a factory culture in which things are produced in factories, mass produced and consumed. We do not have the concept of, it does not actually, it's actually creating a workforce for the factories. And women by nature are good in repetitive activities and things that are again and again done. Men are not so good in that, So that is why they want that workforce in the system. I mean, they want most of us to do that, to actually join the factories and work. So there's a whole lot of thing that is going on there. But what we're trying to say is that it is not preparing, the main point that we're saying is not preparing us for the roles that will naturally, or the situation that will come to all of us. And what is going to come to us, as this verse and purport says, period of life just prior to death is certainly very dangerous, because usually at this time people are attacked by weakness and old age. So how do you actually not become so invalid during old age? What can we do? One is, of course, be physically fit, nutritionally fit, because as we become older, the body's ability to digest and assimilate food reduces. If you lose your teeth, then it again, because chewing reduces, and as chewing reduces, the amount of food digested and assimilated reduces. Just the body's ability, the body is now becoming old, so the ability to assimilate and be. In spite of that, what can we do? There are things that can be done. So it's preparing the body for doing that. So preparing for leaving the body, Krishna Todiya Padapangaja, Pancharantam, Advaita Vishatame, Manasa Rajhamsi. So how do we actually concentrate, get the mind to come to this position where we can actually concentrate on the Supreme Personality Body? So Tasmat Tvam Indriyani Ado Niyamya Bharatarsava Papmanam Prajahinam Jnana Vijnana Nashanam. So the sinful activities that are there, that have to be removed, and then only we'll be able to remember. Ahara Shuddho Sattva Suddhe. If food is ahara, of course, indriyas, all our senses have so much ahara. The eyes have some ahara, some food. The touch sensation is another food. The ears have different food. But in general, if food is pure, ahara shuddho sattva suddhi. Sattva, existence becomes pure. Prabhupada translates the word sattva in different parts of the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita as existence. Madhvacharya in his Bhagavad Gita translation of, he translates the word ahara, sattva as willpower. So, willpower. So, ahara shuddho sattva suddhe. So whether it's existence or it's willpower becomes strong. Ahara shuddho sattva suddhe. Sattva suddhe dhruva smritihi. Memory becomes very sharp. It's very, then they remember things. We don't forget. Ahara shuddho sattva suddhe dhruva smritihi. Smriti lambhe, when smriti is actually long, then sarva granthinam vipramokshat, one can actually cut the knots of material existence. So this is how the system is actually designed in the spiritual, in our spiritual system. So the whole Vedic system is actually to give people a good life in a way that they will actually be able to live it in a proper way. And not to, now the idea is to have a good life so that you can enjoy your body as much as possible. They won't tell you that how bad the situation is going to be, and they probably want to. And there's another thing that happens nowadays is they want to take as much of your money in your old age as possible. In the name of treatment and insurance and this and that. but it is not which the Vedic system wants. The Vedic system is to keep us as alert as possible until the last days of our life, so that we can remain Krishna conscious. In fact, it increases our Krishna consciousness, increases our absorption in the Supreme Lord, remembrance of the Supreme Lord, and remember what to do and what not to do at the point of death. So this is how one is actually, Prabhupada says, when a man is young, he does not care for old age, but enjoys sex to the best of his satisfaction, not knowing that at the end of life, his sexual indulgence will bring on various diseases which so much disturb the body that one will pray for immediate death. So people are not, this is not the education that we get. So we are actually very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada wrote such wonderful purports, such wonderful knowledge, something that never will be seen anywhere. And especially he had this whole regime of giving Bhagavatam classes, attending Bhagavatam classes every day. And we have these wonderful purports that he has written for us, so that we remember what's going on. One of the most wonderful things is he never allowed us to, and through his purports, to get into things like puja, la, pratishta, get name, fame, glory. He just put us right there, focused. No, this is what is the main goal of life. There are a lot of people with knowledge, so-called thing, and they want to, display their knowledge and show that how great they are by, maybe turning around different words and, different languages and different things. But here he is not bothered about that, because the main thing is only one. How do we leave this body in a manner that we don't have to repeat this material life again? So this is, and he could have, like the others, given us hundreds and thousands of mantras to remember and chant and all that, but perfection is just one mantra. Just chant this one mantra and make this one mantra perfect. We don't need so many, because anyway, there's a lot of distraction in the world. I think, what is that verse? Chanakya says that there are a lot of vidyas in this world that you can learn, but the time is very short. There is no Ananta Shastra Bahulasa Vidya. There is a lot of Shastra to read. Ananta Shastra Bahulasa Vidya. Swalpakala, but the time is very short. Swalpakala, and even that little time that we have, Bahuvigtatascha. There is a lot of disturbances, impediments on this path. Bahuvigtatascha. Tatsara bhutam upasaniyam. Now just take the essence of it. Tatsara bhutam upasaniyam. So, Ananta Shastra Bahulastra Vidya Swalpakala Bhuvignatastra Tatsara Bhutam Upasaniyam. So, just take the essence of it. The essence is life, human life is very rare, it's only opportunity that we can actually get out of this material, the rigmarole of birth, death, old age and disease, again and again going through it. This is the only form of it, just get out of it. So, Srila Prabhupada has been very kind to us to actually present these verses and these purports to not distract us from anything, to get into anything, but just focus on getting out of this material world. There is a song, I think, from, you probably will have to open it again. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Sharanagati has, I think, the third and fourth song of Sharanagati. He actually writes about this, about old age and how we go through life and how we get distracted by so many things in life. He says, Yovana Jokono Dhano Uparjane Hoinu Vipulokami. In youth, we become very busy with earning money. Dhana uparjane hoinu vipulokami. And so many desires there for us. Vipulokami, there's so many desires. Dharma smorya grihinirokara Horin tokhono ami. So at that time, remembering my duties, I took the hand of a woman, of my wife, and I took her hand. Samsaro patoye tahara sohito kal khoy koinu koto. So with this, in the samsara, I spent so much of my time spending time managing the samsara, doing so many things in the samsara. Bahu suta suta. So I have a lot of children, grandchildren, etc., girls, boys born. Janamalo hilo, morome hoinu hoto. And seeing their love for those children, etc., I became so much entangled in this. I was literally killed by that, by my affection for my children. Samsara bharo bhare dine dine. And the weight of running the samsara family life increases day after day. Achalo hoinwa goti. So I couldn't even move ahead. So the burden of running family was becoming so much that I couldn't even move ahead. Bardhoka asiya gherilo amar. But old age has now finally come and has completely surrounded me. Ostiro hoilo moti. And my mind is becoming restless. Ostiro moti. Moti means by mind or my consciousness is becoming restless. Pidayo osthiro chintayo jora obhave jolito chitta. Pidayo osthiro, the difficulties of old age, the body is becoming, making me very restless. Osthira. Chintayo jolito. I'm becoming, Adi Shankara also shares that, in youth we are busy playing. In when you're young, youth, you're busy trying to attract the opposite gender, and as old age becomes, we just become concerned with so many thoughts. So chintaya jwarito, obhave jwarito chitta, and those things that lack, obhav, what I don't have, those are actually burning my consciousness. Upaya na dekhi andhakare moyo ekhono hoyeche bhito. And seeing no hope and seeing no way in this darkness that I am seeing, I am ekono hoise bhito. I have become fearful. So this is what is happening. The Yavanraj, whose name is Fear, with the help of Prajwara and Kalakanya, is now killing all the people of the kingdom of Puranjana. So samsara tatani shruto nahi shesh marana nikate ghora. Samsara tatani, this river of samsara, it does not release anyone. It's very strong. And it's relentless. The fighting gloomy death approaches me. So how I wish I could give up the worldly attachments and worship you, O Lord, but it is a useless hope because I have not done anything in my whole life. Savasamapiya bhujivatamaya. So we always think we will finish this work and then worship the Lord. We'll read Bhagavatam after we finish all this work, but we don't. And Easha bifala mura. So he says this even is now no longer there. Evasuno Prabhu, O Lord, now please listen to me. Ami gotihin, I have no, I'm helpless and I don't have any direction. Ami gotihin, bhakoda vinodakoi, tavo kripa vina, shakole nirasha, deho mure podashra. So this is the helpless situation in which Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Dainya Bhav, in his in a lot of humility, is saying, now please give me the way. So this is, of course, his songs are for us to educate us on what old age is and how we have wasted our life. And then the song after that is even more wonderful when he talks about old age in the next song after this. So this is in short. I'd like to end here because there are so many wonderful persons. In fact, this is the first time that I'm speaking in front of His Holiness and Mataji also. Please forgive me for any of my defects and my so-called, trying to give my knowledge. I don't have any. It's y'all who've trained me, so thank you for. Please correct me and give your comments. Yeah. Yes.
Do you actually want a correction?
Yes.
So if you say that an old person is invalid, it means they don't care anymore. What you meant was invalid, which means they're sick.
Okay.
We old people are not invalid.
Okay.
I just so much enjoyed your class. You picked up some of my favorite, that purport where Prabhupada says from the very beginning, then it will never deteriorate into lust, but once it deteriorates into lust, it's very difficult to turn it back. That's like the whole basis of our whole Gurukul program, and I just really want to express my appreciation. And then that song you quote, the Bengali song, we use that in our career Dharma course. As far as when we talk about charity, where Bhakti Vinod says, I wanted to earn money, and therefore, understanding Dharma, I took a wife. And most people think, because I have a wife, therefore I earn money. But Bhakti Vinod says, because I wanted to earn money, I understood that I needed a wife. So that you don't just, this idea of a single life, you're talking about slaughterhouse education, that, people are educated, just be single, have a career, keep all the money for yourself, spend it on, fast cars and things like that. And just a comment about, you said factory education. So, maybe you're already aware, maybe everybody's already aware of this, but before industrialization, there was mostly one-room schoolhouses, and kids were educated in a multi-level, individualized way. And like you were saying, by the time they're in their early teens, their propensities were understood and they were educated in that way. So with industrialization, where all of the careers were pulled out of the home into the factories, and then people were congregated in the cities around the factories, and then because they didn't want the children competing with the adults to do the same work in the factories for less pay, they started having compulsory education where all the children had to go to school. But then you had a concentration of human beings in urban centers. So a school might have now, instead of 10 children or 15 children, it'd have 500 children or 2,000 children. So how are you going to educate them? And the people who developed the modern ideas of education were not educators. They were not sociologists. They were not psychologists. They were factory owners. And they said, if the factory system works so well to produce cars, well, it can work just as well to produce humans. And they came up with this concept that all the 5-year-olds are in one room and all the 6-year-olds are in another room, and everyone is taught the same thing at the same pace, at the same way. And we just move them along like a factory. And we keep them out of the workforce as long as possible so that they won't have undue competition with the adults. And therefore, during the teenage time when they should be learning their career, instead they're just learning this factory education. And people don't even think about what their propensity is or what they're going to do until they're like 20 or 35 or so. So it's a real shame that I've run into over and over again is devotees thinking that this kind of education is actually traditional. And when you propose a multi-level or individualized education, they think you're proposing something new and untested. Anyway, I just wanted to add that comment. I also wanted to just say that myself being old, and most of my friends also being old, that even if you exercise and even if you eat well and even if you don't, even if you regulate your senses, you can still be beset by many terrible diseases of the mind and the body in old age. And I think one of our biggest fears for us old people is seeing so many of our contemporaries who've not just lost their physical abilities but lost their mental abilities. And it's kind of terrifying. There was, how will I remember Krishna if I have no control over my mind and I have no idea of who I am? And so I think the preparation for that is to have developed such a deep inner spiritual life on the level of the soul that, and I was just talking to one devotee who had a pranava. Any of you know pranava? He's a professor, wrote a book about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So he had a stroke, and because of the stroke, he became like a baby. He said that he lost all of he knew 13 languages. Big professor, and he said he lost everything, that he couldn't understand any language, he couldn't speak any language, he couldn't do anything. But he said because he developed this inner spiritual life, he had the Hare Krishna mantra you were saying. To perfect one mantra, he had the mantra. He could still chant. He had this sense of a connection with Krishna. I mean, it's been a miracle in 4 years with the help of his good wife. He's regained 5 languages, and he's now back to teaching in university, and he looks completely normal. But I thought it was so important that the ultimate preparation that we're to give our children and we're to give our people is how to have this inner life that even if the body falls apart, which it will at some point, no matter how healthy you are, and even if the mind falls apart, that we still have that. And many times in the Hare Krishna movement, we're just running around busy all the time, And we forget that if I don't develop this inner life, then I'll come to old age and I'll be crying like that song. Anyway, hope you don't mind that.
Thank you so much.
And I guess I wanted to ask, I don't know you, I've never met you before. Are you involved in education and starting schools? And is this a project that you're involved in?
No, I'm involved with farms. Education is somewhat connected, but yeah, I've been, because we've been educated, so in the so-called factory education. So I'm concerned, but not as yet directly involved. I'm part of the Varnashram ministry, so I have to do something with them.
So I would just beg you, with all the insight you've given in this class, that maybe you want to also look at that. That would be a great benediction for our Hare Krishna.
If you bless me. Any other comments? Questions? Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the nice class. I just had a very quick, small question, but so obviously we're putting a lot of emphasis on how important it is to get that education from a young age, but a big part of ISKCON, I think we're still kind of very much have to work in the modern society. We're not completely by ourselves yet. Of course, there's projects like, for example, in England, they have those Avanti schools and things like that. But even there, we're sometimes limited in how much we can actually preach about Krishna consciousness. So I'm just wondering if you have some advice on how to actually function in the modern society, knowing the ideal, but then also working with what's actually there at the moment.
Oh, that's we've been actually seeing that there's a lot of headway that we're trying to make with people who actually, basically speaking, the present day system has left us in a way that we have no skills to actually do anything independently. This is the biggest problem that we have, is that the present day system of education leaves you with no skill to actually be independently, what you call it, entrepreneurial, or be able to do something of your own, and makes you dependent on a salary. And I sometimes compare salaries to a drug addiction. It's the beginning of the month or the end of the month when you actually get your shot, and you say, And as the month ends, your salary goes down. You become restless and start calculating everything. But as the month comes again, we forget about it. To create sustainable futures for ourselves, we really the way ahead that I would say is community living and community activities. How do we do that? Because until and unless we don't have community, I'm not saying even to the extent of we could actually could be the first precursor for us to go to more sustainable communities. But we need to start with community thinking. Even I would say, to the extent, some work that we've been doing, even the devotees who are living in the city, if we come together, even pool our resources, and even if we buy all the food that we need to buy together, I think we'll start saving a lot of money. If we start doing a lot of things together like that, we could make a lot of difference. So coming together, and that's one of the reasons actually that we've been trying to look in India. We've been trying to look into this concept of cooperative movement, cooperatives, in which we pull in our resources, and the same things that we do today, if we do it together, we have a much better bargaining power, including dealing with schools. So if we all pool in our resources and say, okay, we have this many children with whom education has to be done, we have a better bargaining power with even the schools, or even the way we deal with the government or things like that. So I think in Kali Yuga, numbers make, especially in the way we are running democracies, numbers make a big difference. So if we can actually get the numbers, that's one thing that we noticed when we were in the village. In our village, little small community that we had 8 people on the electoral roll. The village is about, I think, 700, 800 people, out of which we had 8. And as we had 8 people on the electoral rolls, we had all those people who were contesting elections, the village, panchayat leaders, etc. They keep coming to us again and again. And they keep talking to us. When they go, they come and drop into the temple. I'm not saying that we want to do that, but numbers play a big role, and I think we can leverage ourselves to a better position if we have numbers. So this is my step 1 to a transition to a more bigger and a larger community. Anything else? Maharaj, would you like to add something to this?
You mentioned this verse from Bhagavad Gita that we are doing sometimes things although we don't want to do it, like as we are forced to do it. And my question is, the free will is like some principle we have as a soul. So in one case, everything we do, we want to do it or not. Like there's always, even we say we don't want to do it, but if we do it, it's still we want to do it. So if you don't want to do it, we will find way that we can improve ourselves, or make a better situation, or do spiritual things, or searching for help. But if you do it in the end, there's always, I think, the decision of ourselves that we want to do it. So I don't understand really. Sometimes we say we are forced or unwillingly, but in the end it's our decision that we are doing it.
That is why I think Krishna is very clear about this. Kama esha krodha esha rajaguna samudbhava. It is what we associate with the gunas that we associate with. If we actually associate with the right kind of activities, the other aspect slowly goes down, because it's basically a play of the modes of material nature. So my little experience of, especially during this COVID period, when we were out isolated, we were put into different, my old nature kind of starts coming out, the wolves inside come out. So, but then, as I forced myself to attend the morning programs, sit down with everyone for japa, listen to the Bhagavatam class, even if it's a third class speaker, okay, like myself. So even if someone is third class like that, but still sit down and read the Bhagavatam, listen to it again and again, things slowly change. And we start doing, because we are basically 13th chapter, verse number 6, I think, where Krishna says that Sangatas Chetana Dhriti. It is the association that will actually give us the consciousness. So if we keep on associating with this system, we will actually see its power to actually keep us on track. So even though there'll be a tendency to go into other things, but if we keep on doing this without giving the excuses, whatever excuses, just do this basic stuff. Re-listen to Prabhupada's purports, discuss Prabhupada's purports, listen to his lectures again and again. Whatever, even if you don't want to do it, as you do it for time and again, and especially I would say one thing is that to meditate on the purports that Prabhupada has given us, on the lines, things that he has said. Just meditate it, make it a part of our meditation throughout the whole day. And that is going to change, because it is what we associate with, is what we want to do. So it is our association which is very, 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 very important. Okay? Does anyone want to comment on this? Okay. Yes, Master.
Krishna says it's our lust. So Arjuna says it looks like we're being forced, but then Krishna says it's your own lust that's forcing you. So, yeah. Exactly. Madhava, yes? Exactly what Madhava Prabhu was saying. Yeah. There's a nice verse in Srimad Shiksha by Raghunath Das Goswami on this about the highway robbers. That it appears that these highway robbers are forcing you to do things you don't want to do, but if they're in your own employ. It's like you're employing your own thieves to steal from you. So then Arjuna is saying, it looks like I'm being forced, and Krishna says, no, you're not. It's your own lust.
All right. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you. Please forgive me for any of my mistakes. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
His Grace Madhava Prabhu ki jai.
That was lovely. I hope you didn't mind it, even though you're older than 15. Ask for correction on that day. I'm like, he asked me. That's one of the things you notice with non-native speakers with English, is they'll put the accent on the wrong syllable. I wondered what he was trying to say desert, and she said dessert over and over again. She said the moon is a dessert. And nice to see you, Maharaj. After a very long time. We just came out with this book, Career Dharma.
I heard about that. That's quite recent, is it?
Yeah, maybe 3 weeks it's been.
Oh.
Well, it started 6 years ago,
Oh.
and the first day we worked on it was in New Vrindavan when you were there, and you gave a class on Varnashram. And that was the beginning of the thing.
Interesting. I definitely want to have a look at that. You're here for 2 days?
Just a few days, leaving Tuesday morning. And how long are you here for?
I'm also here for, I think we're leaving on Monday.
Yeah.
We're leaving on Monday.
Is this your entourage?
He's here, and they're from India. Their first time to, to Switzerland.
You've been to Europe before?
Their first time to Europe, actually.
Is it your first time out of India?
No.
Have you been to Western countries before? Never been to Western countries? You have. What countries have you been?
US, Australia,
Oh.
Indonesia.
But you've never been to Western countries?
I've been to the Eastern countries, the Asian countries.
Asian countries. So what do you think?
I think the soil is pretty poor here.
The Western?
Soil.
Soil is poor.
Yeah. They're both involved with the, he's actually the deputy minister for the National Ministry for Varnashram in India.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, then you might really be interested in our book.
Yeah. And this is Vasidam. Vasidam is related for traditional technologies.
Traditional technologies like handicrafts?
Yeah, it includes many things, and so many things.
You need to introduce that in Hungary so they don't have to do washing by hand in the middle of the winter in Hungary. I was thinking all they need is like a hand wringer. Because it's you know, they don't have servants, and it's freezing cold, and so you're doing the laundry much. They need to get like the Amish technology where you have hand-powered wringers for your clothes. Or you're gonna make flower airplanes? Anyone who says they have we have a traditional Gurukul, I said, do you make flower airplanes? Anyway, if I can be of any service, I mean, we just wrote this whole book on, it's just about Varna. There's one chapter on ashram, but the rest of it's just on Varna.
Yeah.
And we've written it in language for the public.
Right. I think maybe a couple of years ago, Sri Rama wrote a book on Varna also.
Well, he didn't really write it.
Okay.
There were, he explains in the book, there was discussions, and it was really the transcript of those discussions, and they published it under his name. Also, his book is, he says it's really just written for Hungary. The audience and the scope, I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful book, but the audience and the scope of it is very limited.
Yeah. Yes. They explain that
In the very beginning. At least what Rukmini and I have tried to do. Rukmini is, you're definitely Bengali, yeah? At least if not, your Bengali is superb.
I'm close to that.
Where are you from?
I'm from Assam.
Assam, not Assam. See, I'm getting the syllable wrong. Assam,
Yes.
or Assam, which is it?
Actually, traditionally we won't call it any other place.
You call it something else?
The English way of speaking is Assam.
Assam, okay. I've been to Manipur, but never to Assam. That's so cool.
You probably have to go through Assam.
You can fly over.
We flew over. Yeah. Yeah, I have one of my good friends is from Assam. Wow. Yeah, anyway, my co-author is Bengali. Actually, her great-grandparents were disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And she's got a PhD in mathematics. She's a scientist. I mean, I'm a social scientist. She's a scientist. So we looked not only at Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, we also looked at copious empirical sources to really come up with something that could be convincing and applicable, not just for the devotees, but for the general public. I'm giving seminars on that today.
Even tomorrow as well, or just today?
Yesterday evening, I gave an overview of the 9 principles of career dharma, and then we had a class on the 6 opulences. So, in other words, thinking of wealth as not just money, but thinking of wealth as, what am I getting from my work? And some of us really want to get Gyan, some of us really want to get Virya, some of us really want to get Yasha. And understanding what career you have by which of these types of prosperities or combination of them is nourishing to you. And then today we're going to look at the 4 varnas, which we call the 4 fields of artistry, resources, government, and ideas. So the first class, we're going to be defining the fields, what are the fields. Second class is the nature of the people in the fields. And the third class is going to be what happens when you go in one field. Which, once Rukmini and I understood this, we were like, oh my God, this explains so many of the problems in the world. People with the mentality of one varna doing the work. So that's what we really intend. But that's just a tiny portion of it. If you're interested and we help you in your service, we'd be glad to be of service. And we're hoping that at some point we can actually work with governments, because Prabhupada only the Kshatriyas can institute financial. The ITS person, we can give them out, and we can give a blueprint, but it's only the Kshatriyas who can actually put it together. And what are you working on now, Marsh?
What am I working on? Actually, I'm working on Varnashram College, something that Prabhupada.
Which one again?
Yeah. long pending within our society. And in many ways, that's, I would say, one of the main reasons there's so much of confusion about the whole topic. Not really the topic, but
Yes.
and education is a very essential part of that as well.
Again, if you like our book, we designed it so it could be used as even an undergraduate textbook in outside academia.
Definitely have it.
It's really indexed. It could be out, the kind of thing that we could actually present to professors. So we'd be happy to.
The book is available on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. It's not an ebook yet. We're ironing out some technical glitches. Basically, because we have footnotes, endnotes, and citations, the algorithm doesn't know how to put it into the Kindle yet. But the printed book is on Amazon. It's been an Amazon bestseller now for over 2 years. And Mars looks bright and shiny, even though I know that physically you've got to be somewhere in the same place I am.
Old days.
Old age. You hear somebody who's not old talking about old age. You have no idea. It's like you get a little notice on your computer. Your subscription has expired and there's no possibility of a renewal. Something like that. Yeah, but eventually what we'd like to do is have a career guidance center at every Hare Krishna temple. Both for the devotees and for the public. So we're planning on having full courses to do on that, of course, to train coaches, how to actually recognize
Yes, come. This is our keynote language. Anadi, comes to know this.
Yes, this is my best.
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Rama Rama Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama